What if I told you there was a version of Animal Farm that you could watch for free, and a lot better than you think it will be? I'm of course talking about Animal Farm that you can watch on Tubi, which might be a surprise since it's a movie that came out, but I'm talking about the Animal Farm version from 70 years ago. In this movie, you get the full rundown of what the book was all about, the way George Orwell actually intended it to. Obviously, lots of people are critiquing the newer version that took a lot of creative liberties, you might say. Honestly, if you look on people who are reviewing this in YouTube, you actually have Man Carrying Thing and Critical Drinker agreeing on this. And let me tell you, if Man Carrying Thing and Critical Drinker can agree on something regarding movies, then it has to be accurate.
It was really unpleasant. I don't know why. I mean, I guess I went expecting an unpleasant experience to just kind of like, oh, I got to experience it, right? See how bad it is. But it did kind of like darken my day significantly. So the movie is trying to turn the book into like a fun little kids movie. And that's definitely not what the book is. But the movie is also trying to like update the critique of authoritarianism to like modern day Trump times and modern capitalism. And it doesn't work. And it's really very dull. Like I was just really struggling to stay awake. And I get that this is also, it's trying to like be a kid's movie that's also about like, you know, authoritarianism and like, but it's not done in an interesting or clever way. Guys.
Well, you end up with Animal Farm, I guess. But why does it really matter? Well, it matters because Animal Farm just so happens to be one of the most iconic and widely referenced political satires ever written, a scathing critique of totalitarian communism and Stalin's cult of personality, and a pretty biting observation about human nature, our greed, our lust for power, and our willingness to compromise our moral principles for personal gain. In short, it's not really the sort of thing that lends itself to a goofy Seth Rogen kids comedy whose main message seems to be rich people bad.
But this movie, I would argue, holds up. Now, it doesn't hold its punches as to some of the aspects that happen in the book, but man, let me tell you, this has like a real old school cartoon feel that feels nostalgic, even if you're watching it for the first time. I'd highly recommend checking it out. You can follow along all the beats of Boxer, Snowball, and of course Napoleon, as the Animal Farm takes over the control from its farmer.
Vote for my plan is a vote for the life beautiful.
It's a lie.
I'll promise you a 4-day week.
Bosh!
Perhaps a 3-day week.
Nonsense!
Thinking about it more, I actually appreciate how fast-paced and to the point this movie is. By following the source material of the 100-page book, this movie doesn't mess around with any filler or stretching out of a scene. I also love the old-school animation, which somehow delivers a classic cartoony feel, but also sets a dark tone for what looms around the corner for the animals at Animal Farm. If I were to offer some light critiques, I would say the lack of character voiceovers is a little limited. The story is mostly pulled along by a narrator, which is why the movie can carry along so quickly. But it would have nonetheless been nice to have some emotional dialogue between Boxer, Benjamin, and some of the other animals stuck under the rule of the pigs. And as for the donkey yelps, get used to the wretched screeching of a donkey for every high-tension moment. Other than that, I'd give this version of Animal Farm a 4 out of 5. Stays true to the novella, keeps you on your toes as the narrative moves on at a steady pace, all while offering a rustic charm which is fitting to the theme of the story. I will say that I'd favor the version from the 90s a little bit more than this older one. There was one from the 90s that actually had Kelsey Grammer and Patrick Stewart in it that was really well done. that one might not be for free. But this cartoon one really does seem to like hit all of the beats of the book. And it just sort of makes me think a little bit more like, do we really need all of these recreations when some people did it right like years back? I don't know if we really need to have yet another Animal Farm. And like you look at a lot of the other movies that have been recreated over the years, you know, I mean, it's like in 20 years from now, will we have like a recreation of The Lord of the Rings? I mean, Peter Jackson did that well, and if you ask me, this cartoon version did it well as well. So, I don't know. I would say check it out and maybe make that decision for yourself. But yeah, check it out on Tubi. It's only an hour long, but, you know, keeps you very, very captivated by each event as it breaks down each of the beats of the book. I'd check that out. And then once you've checked that out, tell your friends that if you want to see what the book was actually all about on film, you can watch that for free. And it'll likely be better. See you next time.